Welcome back to the shop. I'm Dave, and this week I'm back working on this thing. So this is Chubb. This is my 1952 Dodge M37. And over the last 10 months, over the last 10 months, I've been able to stuff a 2001 Dodge Ram chassis underneath that, and I'll let you look underneath the hood. So she's a little dusty, but this is the ranch. I call this the ranch because this is where all the horses live. And there we are. 235 horses live here right now, and I might expand the ranch in the future. Pretty tight up here in the engine bay. I've had to extend the firewall back to get this 24 valve Cummins turbo diesel in. It's extended about 3-4 inches, and I got a little bit of wiring left to do. Speaking of wiring, that's what I've been working on in the cab here. Let me show you what I've been after. So I know I said I was going to work on the doors next in the last episode, but I needed some light in the cab to see what I was doing. So that's what I did next. So I put in some cab lights in here, and what happens is I'll open this door, and then the lights come on in the cab. So I've installed four banks LEDs here, fore and aft, and that gives me enough lighting to see what I'm doing, so I can tackle this mess down here. I was able to reuse the door sense switches off the Ram, and when the door closes, it pushes on the switch. I only have to give up one spot because there's four bolts here. Anyways, I drilled this one through, and I can turn lights on and off. Also, they work on the connector there, so I can turn them on without opening the door while I'm driving. I can just, if I got to read a map or something, I can just flip this switch and they're on. I can imagine that wiring isn't everybody's favorite thing to watch people do, so I'm going to do a bunch of hand wavy stuff, and it'll be finished up. Let me show you the design I got for the dash. I've been working on this for the last little while. So this is the old instrument cluster that came part of the 52 M37. A lot of these gauges and connectors have succumbed to time, so a lot of them don't work very well. Some of them have been replaced, and some of them just have they're just not relevant anymore. And then when I turned over to look at the back of it, you can see a lot of these old connectors aren't in very good shape, nor is the insulation. Some of it's wound right through, and overall just kind of rusty. That being said, I really enjoy the simplicity and the symmetry of this dash, and what I was trying to do with this new dash is trying to maintain the spirit of it. After a couple of prototypes, this is what I currently have. So this is prototype, I don't know, there's been a couple. Anyways, this is the process for CAD, or my cardboard aided design. And I have my long sweep gauge on this side, short sweep on that side. And then also, I kept a lot of the things in the same spots, while adding things that are relevant just for the diesel, like the pyrometer, boost gauges, fuel pressure for that diesel injection pump, and then you got your trans temperature, a few idiot gauges down here, 4-wheel drive on, wait to start, parking light, overdrive. You got your turn signals and your brights. And then I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this. This is a fan override. I might put this just underneath the dash or underneath the steering column where the convoy switch is, just so you can flip it if you need more fan. And then these should be a little bit easier to install. They all go in with thumb nuts, and I'll move all this over to a piece of steel. It's a little bit easier to work on this in the house with a newborn and all that fun stuff. Then I can bring it out here when I got a couple of minutes and then cut this into some steel. So this is the piece of steel I'm going to cut those gauge holes into, and then I'm going to apply it to the dash here. My plan is that it's going to cover from these bolt holes here to the right side of the steering column, and then cover all the way over just to where the glove box used to sit. Then I'm going to add in that piece, the old piece of the dash, and it's going to go in there. But I still want to maintain that I can pull it out. I'm not going to weld it in. My reasoning for that is because this giant HVAC system needs to go in, and the only way it can go in is if I pull this dash out completely. So I'm going to have it so I can bolt it in, so I can tear everything apart in case I do. And while I'm doing that, I have to be mindful that I definitely want some defrost vents across the top here. And I've been working a little bit on making a 3D printed defrost. It's supposed to come around here, the little defrost vent, and then I'll have it shoved down over here. And then it'll come out likely on the dash here and up. And then I'll use something else that I haven't quite figured out and put the air up on the windows. That's probably enough talking. Let's get to work. So here's what I got, a little blank slate for this dash. So right now this dash is fully removable, just held in with some 7/16 bolts on each side. I might add a couple to the top just to keep them from rattling, but that's a good starting point for putting these gauges in. So the placement for these gauges is I'm going to put these center to the middle of this windscreen. So that means that the speedometer and high beam indicator is right center on the dash here. And while it was my intention to mount them vertically, just so you can see from probably where my seating angle is that a lot of the gauges are hooded slightly, so I can't see most of their operating value there. So I had a bit of a change of heart. I think what I'm going to do is tilt this whole panel here out a couple degrees. I don't know, maybe 10 or 15, so it kind of points up a little bit, and then that way I can see these gauges a little bit more head on. I think what I'm going to try to do is just tilt it up. So I'll put these on a new piece of steel and then go from there. Okay, now I've got it all in steel. That would have went a lot quicker if I had some knockout punches, but hole saws were a lot cheaper. I ended up with these Starrett ones. I got nothing really bad to say about them. They did the trick. So let's see what it looks like in the truck. So here's what it looks like back in the truck. Now I just got to cut out some of this dash behind, get this so it sits back a little farther, and then I'm on my way. And I'm there. So I got this spaced out just a little ways from the dash, just on an angle. You can kind of see I got her boxed in, and better viewing angle for looking at gauges. So some of these lights down here are controlled by the computer of the RAM. So what I'm going to do here is tap into this instrument cluster when you fire it up like this, like the wait to start and things like that. I'm going to pull them off the back of this gauge cluster and interface them into this new instrument panel. Alright, so I think I got most of the indicator lights wired in here, so we'll do a little check. I got these on switched ignition, so I'll key it on. So I got, they'll come on, do a little test. I got a wait to start light here. So that turned off. And then I got a low fuel light, because I only have half a jerry can of fuel in the back tank there. And then I'll turn the four-ways on. So I got some signals there, and we'll test the brights there. Good. Overdrive off, and park and brake. Good. Now just got to clean the wiring up a little bit more and get her stuffed in behind the dash. So this is the old instrument cluster, and then behind it you can see that I've tapped into a lot of the circuit board here, and then I've added these Delphi connectors or weather pack, and then that way I can easily connect it up. And these are the lights and gauges installed, and then these connectors here will attach to these connectors. That way I can install that permanently and still have the ability to pull this in and out of the dash while I get the rest of it sorted. So before the dash goes in for good, I need to pick up on this. This is the defrost vent from the HVAC system. I'll block this off, but I need to pick this up and bring it out so I can use it in the dash. So I put together this manifold here, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's in there. So this is the defrost manifold that I got installed here. It's just a friction fit over the top of this HVAC box, and then it'll exit out here through the hole in the dash. So I've installed a secondary fuel sensor in my tank to go along in conjunction with the main one. The main one hooks up with the computer and a bunch of other stuff inside the instrument cluster that I've tapped into. So I'm going to use this standalone one just to provide the gauge on the dash with some information, and this will be a standalone function separate of this one. So to go along with a lot of this theme of wiring this truck up today, I'm going to be using these weather pack connectors. These used to be called Delphi connectors, and they're waterproof, and they'll give me the best chance of not degrading over time, being subject to wind and rain and salt and all that stuff. So I'm going to hook these up, get them connected up. So I make the wire crimp to the connector, and then this one here connects the weatherproof boot on the back. Get a little crimp on there, boom. Do the same for the other side. Crimp the boot on. Black A, yellow B. That's just arbitrary. That's just what I've decided to pick. So I'm gonna click, connect it up. Boom. There you go. So we got the fuel sensor wire here in yellow. We got the gauge ground, and these are both going straight up to the back of the dash where the gauge is, so I don't have any loss in resistance, and I get a good signal. I'll cover this with some loom, tie it up underneath the cab, and should be all set. So I would consider this dash project to be fairly involved. So what I want to do is I need to get access to the back of this gauge cluster often. So what I've done here is, since the dash is fairly long, what I've done is I've hooked it on the other end here with just a bolt, and I back that bolt out. Focus. I back that bolt out a little bit, and what I also can do is pull this one over here, and I can drop this dash out through. And it comes forward just a little bit, and I can tilt this out and sit it on the seat, and that way I got enough space back in here to work in there. There's a lot of wires, but that's the nature of the beast, and I can get these gauges sorted out and troubleshoot if I need to. So far I've been pretty fortunate, but yeah, just the ease of working on it. And if you ever wired a dash before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Alright, let's check some gauges out. Wait to start. obstacle I had trying to tap into this computer was the lack of an OBD2 port. Well, not the total lack of one, but when I was pulling it out, the OBD2 port actually fell apart, and then I tried to pin it into my scanning tool, and just from the look of it, there's a lot of corrosion on these pins, so I just went and bought a new one, and then I spliced it into the computer. So hopefully, with any help, I should be able to connect these. And it'll light up. Yeah. Sweet. So I didn't blow the fuse this time. And then it's just connecting the protocol. All right, so we're in. So it says I got a glow plug heater. That makes sense because I moved them around up front and I haven't wired them in. What else we got? Engine coolant temperature circuit high. I had to pull the old temperature sensor out to put in the one for the water here. So that makes sense. Glow plug heater, circuit B. Coolant temperature, circuit A. Yeah, neither of the glow plugs are hooked up right now. And circuit B. So now this works. I'll attach this under the dash or somewhere so I can so if I ever have any problems in the future, I can just tap in with my scan tool and check it out. I end up pulling the coolant temperature sensor back in its original spot, put it right there, and then I ended up pulling some plugs in the head. I'll put this one. This is the coolant temperature sensor that's in the cab on the instrument panel that I'm working on, and then I have a third one back here on the back of the head. This one back here is going to control, it's just a switch, an on-off switch, and when it gets above about 185 degrees, it's going to turn on this electric fan that I've installed down here, and then that will work autonomously. Also, in the meantime, I've had no place to put this air filter that I was filming earlier, so what I did is I moved it out to the side, and it's just underneath the fender. Now, it won't be well protected from this tire, and I'm going to have to figure out a better solution, but this is a fix for what I have right now. Maybe I'll route this up through this fender and use like a Donaldson filter, something out of like maybe an old dump truck or a front end loader or something like that, like a canister style that sits on the outside here. But I haven't been able to get out to a junkyard to see if I can find one, so I'm gonna use this for the meanwhile. So back behind the dash, I was talking about earlier that I have this defrost plenum here that comes up from the top of the HVAC and then comes over and out through the front of this dash. What I've done here is I've also built this this manifold part here, and instead of capping it off, I slide this over top and then I move this back and it fits in there. That way I can get mixed vent, so I can get some floor and some defrost action at the same time. It's a friction fit as well, so that's what it looks like when it's installed. So I've been keeping some sporadic hours in the shop lately, and I haven't really been filming a whole lot. I got into the zone and then one thing led to another, and I got some stuff done. Let me show you. So I still haven't touched these doors yet, but here's what she looks like inside. All right, let's jump in here. So, been a second. We got our tack. That just shuts off at the RPM that I've shut it off at. Got my gauge clusters in. And then down here, turn some light on. I got the lights. I got the dome lights and the HVAC all set up there on a mount underneath. That way it's a little out of my sight line. So even though it looks like it's about 50 years newer, it's not too conspicuous. And then coming over here, this is where the fan comes out. I'm going to build a plenum, a manifold that goes across the front of this to blow up on the windshield. That'll be my air conditioning and stuff like that, and then it'll blend on the floor if I need to. You just kind of sort it through there. And then I don't know what to do with this yet. So I've intentionally not painted this yet. This is the original glove box to the truck, and although it's shown a lot of age and it's It's kind of worn a little bit. I'm not sure whether I should change it or keep it just like that as kind of a representation of what the truck was at one point in time. I kind of like it. It shows a lot of history. I'm also not opposed to taking all the rivets off, redoing all the plates. I don't know. So I have all the gauges and stuff hooked up. The trickiest one was actually the speedometer, because it takes the reading off of the rear axle, and then it sends a signal up to the ABS control module, and then from there it goes over to the powertrain control module, and then I was able to tap into it when I relocated the powertrain control module, and it's just this yellow or this white wire with a little orange stripe in the back, and then being able to tie in there. So I'll still clean this up a little bit more. There's a little space in here for a little glove box. I do like the area that I can just jump in here behind if I need to, but I might cap this off, make it like a 2-inch glove box or something. I haven't sorted that out yet. And I also installed the rear glass. So this still, so I got this all installed the same way as I installed the windshield. It slides open. However, there's no weather stripping in any of it. I haven't had any luck sourcing it. But there's some pretty big gaps. Maybe you can see it there. And I'm not sure if I'm just gonna glue this window shut or not. I'm still gonna make that decision. If I can source the seals to make it work and make it not leak, then I'll definitely keep it sliding. If not, I'll glue her in for good. So back over here, it's a little darker out. Got the cab lights going. Jump in. And then turn some lights on. So that's kind of what it looks like. Had the parking brake was set there. So yeah, I really like the glow of these gauges, and interior lights come on. I got the ding to tell me that I still left my lights on and the keys are in it. So I have those creature comforts or subtle annoyances. So if you ever drove one of these trucks with one of these Arctic cabs on, you know there's some blind spots. And of course you could probably look out the side and do a solar check. But this one over here, there's a lot of space over there that's being covered. And since the truck's gained a lot of vertical height, I had to come up with an idea on how to get around some of these blind spots, especially with the cab being like 8 inches longer. So what I did was I installed a rear view camera. So this is the rear view camera. I have are you done? So this is a rear view camera and also a front view camera. So I'll go over the rear view camera first. This is a whole screen here. It's all high definition video, and I've installed it up there. The added benefit is that it has a almost 180-degree viewing angle, so I can see pretty much as far out in so I can see pretty much my blind spots there, as far as reasonable. And then I'll put on some mirrors that I can see the rest of it. The good thing about this one is I can scroll with the screen. I can go up, I can go down, see what's in possibly the bed of the pickup truck. Also, it has a front-mounted camera right there. And that's beneficial because I can see farther up the nose of the truck over the dash as much as I can. You can see, well, the camera's right where the camera is. But this is about how far back I sit. So I can see, I'll flip that around. down here in this corner, which I can see from my seated position, but I can't see down in this corner from my seated position. There, that's better. So it's nice I can just slide through these and see what's going on. Yeah, you can see the shop's a mess. It is what it is. So this mirror went over the top of where the old mirror was, and you can kind of see how limited in terms of what you could see at the back of this mirror, which is actually just kind of hilarious, how little you can see. So that's why the camera's there. So my fuel gauge works, my fuel light's on, and then the computer says I got 10 miles till I'm empty. So that all lines up. So when I turn the fan on here, I got that little piece of cellophane over top of it, and then yeah, she'll send. Also got the OBDII mounted down here, so I can plug this in. Lights come on, she's good to go. So this has been helpful for calibrating my engine tachometer here. But it's also going to come in handy for calibrating my speedometer, which I'll have to do whenever she gets ready to go on the road. And coming around the front of the truck, I'm going to put these wiper blades on. What I did is I restored the old wiper blade arms. They're a little tricky for me to find, especially with this hole in the front of them. And then I was able to find some 11-inch wiper blades to match up. And then this wiper manifold, this is the vacuum operated wiper manifold that goes in through this so the windshield can actually tilt down, and then meets up with this vacuum hose that goes up to these vacuum actuated wipers up here. Now before this would go to I think manifold vacuum on the engine, the old flathead, this is going to be hooked up to the vacuum manifold that's on a dedicated vacuum pump that's on the side of the Cummins, and hopefully I get a good result here. So the passenger side wiper motor seems to be working pretty good, but the driver side wiper motor I think has a vacuum leak somewhere. It's just not as powerful as the passenger side. I mean, they're on dry glass, but this one's significantly weaker. It doesn't even move. So I'm gonna have to figure this out. I think I got some spare motors hanging around, so I'll try that option first. So among the things that work off the vacuum pump on the side of the diesel engine, one, we got the four-wheel drive. So you select the four-wheel drive through your transfer case, and then that selects a vacuum switch to actuate the front axle. So that engages the front axle in with the vacuum motor, and then from there it shows up on the dash that the motor has actually got in the right spot. And then another thing the vacuum motor does from the engine is runs this HVAC system. So it needs a good enough vacuum supply to go from the vents from the floor to the defrost and stuff like that. And then the third one is to run these vacuum motors here for the wipers. What I saw when I was running it was if you run both wipers at the same time, it won't switch. The mix in the HVAC system. That might be because this one might be leaking just too badly. If I'm running one, it seems to do, and it has enough power to switch, but I'll have to investigate that a bit later. Also, I might go to electric. I'll have to do some research on what's the proper way to go electric there. So this video is probably just a mismatch of a bunch of edits and cuts and all that fun stuff, just because it's taken place over like a month. But anyways, the last thing I'm going to share with you is I've been working on this manifold. So this is a defrost manifold, and it plugs in through the dash hole there that I had earlier, and then it's going to be piped across this defrost here, and then I'll put in some holes or vents or something like that, and then you can turn it on. Then blast some air, blast some AC on the windows, keep them from being fogged up. And I'm going to have to figure out where I'm going to put all those holes and things like that later. But I'm going to leave it for today, and I'll see you guys on the next one.